use of public funds. I respectfully ask for your support, and I close.
Okay, I think we have a question. Representative Pearson.
Thank you, Chairman. Vice Chair Campos, I have a question on the trust. This is going to the Texas Treasury Safekeeping Trust Company. This is outside of the legislature. I'm trying to figure out if this means that the legislature would not be reviewing grants and appropriations to this fund.
The council is going to be administered by the Department of State Health Services and
So, but the fund itself, is the legislature still going to be approving those appropriations, or is that separate?
I believe they're going to be approving it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. If there's no objection, House Bill 1747 will be left pending. Is there objection? Chair hears none. House Bill 1747 is left pending. Chair lays out House Bill 3219. Chair recognizes Representative Schaffner to explain the bill.
Thank you so much, Chairman and members. I'm grateful to lay out the committee substitute for House Bill 3219.
Hang on,
Sorry. Did he?
Okay, I did not lay out a committee substitute. We don't
That's
have
all
a
right.
committee substitute, so let's just
Do the regular. Okay, that's fine.
stick with the bill. Yeah.
Yep, great. House Bill 3219, this bill will give pharmacists the ability to dispense a widely used and common medicine, ivermectin, without prescription. Many medicines are given over-the-counter daily, like acetaminophen, ibuprofen, Narcan, and over-the-counter contraception pill, Opill. The last two mentioned had moved from prescription basis to over-the-counter in 2023. Ivermectin is a safe, affordable drug with minimal side effects that was invented in the 1970s, over 50 years ago in Tokyo, Japan, from a microorganism found in the soil. It was originally introduced as an anti-parasitic veterinarian drug, but it was quickly discovered to be effective against many other diseases prevalent in tropical regions without the adverse reactions that other treatments had. To this day, in many underdeveloped nations, it can be administered to by non-medical staff in remote rural communities requiring only rudimentary training with regards to dosage amounts. House Bill 3219 directs the Commissioner of the Department of State Health Services, DSHS, to issue an order allowing for pharmacists to provide ivermectin without a health care practitioner's prescription, similar to other medications used to treat common ailments such as muscle and joint pain, coughs, cold, and the flu. Currently, states can allow pharmacists to dispense the drug without FDA approval, but FDA approval would be required to place it on the shelf next to drugs like Tylenol. I have a committee substitute coming, and that will add additional liability protections to the commissioner. In 2015, the Nobel Committee for Physiology and Medicine honored the discovery of ivermectin for treatments of infectious diseases caused by parasites, flies, etc. This was the first kind of award in 6 decades. A person may become susceptible to parasites from consuming sushi, fish, undercooked meats, infected flies, unclean water, etc. Additionally, ivermectin was found to be clinically effective against the coronavirus, as stated in American Journal of Therapeutics in June of 2021, which concluded that reductions in COVID-19 deaths are possible using ivermectin. Many used this as a treatment for COVID and saw substantial improvement or even prevention from the virus. Unfortunately, some media trends politicized a highly safe and effective medicine, which has cast a shadow on it. Thankfully, COVID-19 has been weakened to the level of almost equal to the seasonal cold or flu and should be treated as such at home. By allowing pharmacists to dispense ivermectin over the counter, we can assure that proper labeling and dosage instructions are provided so that there's a minimal risk of side effects. This medication has become cheaper and cost-effective since the patent of original producer Merck expired in 1997. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and I have some witnesses as well.
Okay, thank you, Representative
Reserve my
Schaffner.
right to close.
We have some questions. Let me ask you, we did just receive your committee sub about 15 minutes ago. Would you like,
Prior to laying it out.
prior to laying out the bill, so would you like us to lay out the committee sub?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, yes, sir. And the committee said adds,
It was put in the Dropbox
Prior to the, yes.
prior to laying out the bill.
what the committee substitute, this committee substitute adds is,
Chair lays out the committee substitute for House Bill 3219. Go ahead.
committee substitute adds the standard liability protection for the commissioner of dishes.
Okay. Okay, members' questions? Okay. Okay, go ahead.
The committee substitute adds liability protection. This is what Dishes has asked us to add to the bill, it adds a standard liability protection for the commissioner at Dishes, DHSA.
Yeah, Representative Collier.
So, okay, so you said that the difference between the originally
bill.
filed and the committee substitute is that there's liability protections. What page is that? I'm sorry, we just got this now, so I gotta see what the difference is. On what page? Just 2 pages. So is it on the first or second? A pharmacist.
I don't have a printout of
Okay.
I just have the information.
Was the part about willful misconduct in there already? That was already in there for
That's probably the committee substitute. Willful misconduct.
Is there protection for the pharmacist?
Yes, willful misconduct, that's all in there. That was in the original bill.
Okay.
Yes, yes,
But
ma'am.
that's for the,
Uh-huh, for the pharmacist, et cetera, acting
okay.
in good faith.
So for ivermectin, you said that it's similar, or you said you mentioned COVID-19.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you saying that COVID-19, it's a virus?
Yes.
Okay. But the outcomes are different? I mean, is it more deadly than the cold?
As of today, it's extremely minimal. However, I do have expert witnesses
Okay.
that I can attest to.
So the concern that I would have is the dosage. So when the pharmacist is going to give out the ivermectin, are they required to ask who's going to be taking it and their weight and their height to ensure, or is it going to be like a bottle of Robitussin where you get the whole, or I guess Tylenol pills? Is it going to be like you get 30 pills and then, if the child or if you are under 100 pounds, you take one?
Yeah, pharmacists are required to, when it's over the counter, this is not going to be next to, Tylenol or, Pepto-Bismol on the shelf. This will be with the pharmacist, and they're required to give out the proper instructions of dosage amounts, and which usually includes weight and age,
Okay, so they would be required to say, if the person weighs X.
just like they would any medicine that they give over the counter from the pharmacy.
Well, do you have to ask for a consultation, or are they going to be required to give a consultation?
I believe, there might be someone that can attest to that.
I'll ask that.
However, I believe they offer consultation. They have to ask if you would like consultation.
Okay, I'll verify.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
reserve the right to
thank you.
close.
We'll reserve the right to close. Members, we do have a resource witness from DSHS here. Would you like me to call okay, Chair calls Cynthia Hernandez. Have you listed as Cynthia Hernandez with Department of State Health Services. You're neutral on the bill, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Which one? Representative Frank.
I don't, I was just trying to understand the difference between over-the-counter, and you may not know this, but the over-the-counter, like Tylenol, when I think over-the-counter, I think Tylenol, right? I can go pick it up. Then you have other drugs that are prescription, you go to the pharmacy. This is, from what I can tell, is being put into this middle ground, which is you can't pick it up like Tylenol, but you don't have to have a doctor's prescription. Is that right?
Yes, that's my understanding of the bill.
Okay, so so is your agency not involved normally in deciding which of those drugs go where, or is that all FDA? I mean, I know the FDA decides a lot of that, but does DSHS not do any of the middle ground, or do y'all do any middle ground?
We do not do the middle ground. Also, I'm the general counsel for the agency to answer questions about the liability, but that
Oh,
is my
okay, gotcha.
understanding as well. So we
Gotcha.
would not.
Okay, well, so those.
My
those-
apologies, I should have
No,
clarified that.
that is fine. Well, the agency heard the question, so I would love to get an answer to that. But, or actually, so did the bill author, so we're good.
Okay, members, other questions for this? Okay, Representative Collier.
I don't know if this may be something as it comes up as the general counsel, because that's what, you do. You answer, you look it up and research it. If the issue deals with willful misconduct for a pharmacist, I guess it's with dosage or dispensing, I don't know, is this something that they're going to be required to provide a consultation on, based on your understanding, or is it going to be one where they offer a consultation on the dosage? That's what I'm concerned about, is how much do they know to take, will they take?
So in subsection B, it provides that we will work with the pharmacy board on procedures and protocols. It would also be the board of pharmacy would likely need to also weigh in on whether or not a consultation.
Oh, well, you know what? Thank you for pointing that. It says it will require the pharmacist to provide each patient with instructions. Okay, and so that would be something that you would enforce, or would you enforce that as part of DISH's work, or is that somebody else?
That DISH does not enforce what pharmacy or pharmacists to do. That would also be the board of pharmacy.
The pharmacy. So what the, I guess the provision, I guess the safety net for dishes is that you're just giving authorization for it to be sold over the counter. And that's where you guys don't want to have liability, or that's where it would eliminate liability on behalf of dishes. Is that right?
Yes, so something similar to the language in subsection D, that she would not be civilly or criminally liable, and to protect her license as well once she issues the order that is required by subsection A.
Okay, so it says, notwithstanding any other law, the commissioner's issuance of a statewide order under subsection A may not be the basis for criminal or civil liability against the commissioner or disciplinary action by a licensing entity in the state that issues a license to the commissioner. Does the commissioner or dishes provide authority to dispense any other drugs statewide? Have you guys done that before?
No, I believe during COVID, we did have testing, an order for testing, but that relied more so on the emergency powers at the time.
So are you saying that Dishes has never issued an order authorizing the dispensing of a particular drug?
We can get back to you with that. I'm
Okay.
not recalling anything.
Okay,
at
I'm
this
just
time.
trying to see if you guys have done that before. Any other medication that you've said, we're going to give authority for direct distribution of this particular drug without getting a doctor's order? That's what I'm trying to figure out, if you guys have ever done that. Any
I
particular
can't
drug?
recall
Okay.
any that we have, but I can check and ask the team to look back as far as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony. Chair calls Dr. Zeke Silva, Cindy Castilla, Nina Miller, and Tom Glass. Okay, I have Dr. Zeke Silva, representing Texas Medical Association and self, testifying against House Bill 3219. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Zeke Silva. I am an interventional radiologist. I'm in San Antonio speaking in respectful opposition to House Bill 3219 on behalf of the Texas Medical Association. The Texas Medical Association's position on this is, and we would say this about any medication, is that the safety during the distribution and dispensing process matters. So from our perspective, there needs to be a physician-patient relationship when any medication is administered to a patient, and that's established through the Texas Pharmacy Act. And to understand why that's relevant to a physician is to think about the number of different steps in the prescription of a medication. To clarify, when we talk about a medication, and this is to Chair Frank's question and comment, we have prescription medications which are deemed by the FDA to have the potential to be harmful if not prescribed by a physician within the context of that relationship. Over-the-counter medications are treated differently. That is an FDA determination. So I am speaking to specifically medications for which the Pharmacy Act applies, prescription medications. Think about dosing. For physicians, it matters not just the indication, the weight of the patient, but even potential other conditions, think renal disease and the like. The actual prescription itself matters relative to other medications the patient may be on. You could imagine a scenario where a medication interacts with another medication, in this case, imagine warfarin, that might lead to a bleeding complication. And I think very important is the potential for post-procedural complications. In this case, neurotoxicity is one that we think about very seriously. So as we think about the context of that, the TMA very much speaks in strong support of the Pharmacy Act and the importance and the absolute primacy of the physician-patient relationship during the prescription of any medication, and we think that applies to this medication as well. Therefore, Mr. Chair, we speak in respectful opposition to House Bill 3219. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Silva. Chair recognizes Michelle Evans. I'm sorry, Cindy Okay, Michelle Evans. Is Michelle Evans here? There she is. Chair recognizes Michelle Evans, testifying on behalf of Texans for Vaccine Choice and Self for House Bill 3219. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairman Van Dever, Vice Chair Campos, and committee members. My name is Michelle Evans, and I'm the Political Director for Texans for Vaccine Choice. I represent myself and TFVC in favor of HB 3219. HB 3219 is simple and long overdue. During the COVID pandemic, a Nobel Prize-winning and well-studied medicine labeled a wonder drug by researchers was systematically rejected as a treatment for COVID-19. Doctors refused to consider and prescribe ivermectin, and pharmacists regularly declined to fill prescriptions for it, denying patients the opportunity to try an effective remedy. Often this occurred out of fear of being reported to the Texas State Board of Pharmacy or Texas Medical Board. In one case, the denial of ivermectin treatment, even after a court ordered that it should be administered in the hospital, resulted in the death of a Texas man. By ordering that ivermectin be made available without a doctor's prescription, HB 3219 empowers patients by freeing licensed pharmacists from the dread of being reported for fulfilling their duties and giving patients an avenue for accessing care for a common virus and other ailments without having to go through waiting to be first seen by a physician and given a prescription. Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, who treated thousands of COVID-19 patients with ivermectin, studied dosage and discovered that while the dosage she used is higher than what is used to treat parasites, the lethal or toxic level is 11 to 82 times greater than her COVID dosing. Additionally, she was unable to find any evidence in medical literature of accidental or intentional overdoses of ivermectin. We at TFVC are committed to protecting and advancing informed consent and patients' rights, and HB 3219 accomplishes both. We look forward to its swift and favorable passage and look forward to being back in this committee soon to support more legislation intended to promote medical liberty for Texans. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Cindy Castilla, President of Texas Eagle Forum, testifying on behalf of
She's
Texas
not
Eagle
here.
Forum. I'm sorry,
She's not here.
Cindy Castilla is not here. Okay. Sorry. Show Cindy Castilla registered for the bill, but not testifying. Chair recognizes Nina Miller, health coach, testifying on behalf of yourself for House Bill 3219. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Proceed.
I'm Nina Miller of Good Food Fighter. I got sick with the Delta variant of COVID in late 2021, and I was as sick as a dog. Fortunately, I was able to get ivermectin quickly through an Austin clinic. Within 2 days, I had made a miraculous recovery. I shared it with my husband and son, and neither of them got sick. Over time, ivermectin became harder to access. Demand kept on increasing because everyone who used it saw how quickly it resolved their symptoms, yet supply kept on decreasing after the FDA called the medicine a horse paste and doctors were warned against prescribing it to their patients. Since 1981, over 4 billion doses of this medicine have been administered to humans. It is included in the World Health Organization's list of essential medicines and has a safety profile that is better than aspirin or Tylenol, with fewer adverse effects and deaths per year. In 2015, the scientist who discovered it received a Nobel Prize. Just because ivermectin is hard to find and expensive now doesn't mean people aren't using it. Everyone who wants it gets it from Mexico or India, or from websites that don't require prescriptions, or they buy the veterinary version and calculate the proper human dose. So basically, the current restriction is posing an undue burden on Americans who have to find friends traveling to other countries, or trust unverifiable internet companies, or rely on their pet store to obtain medicine designed for humans. And American dollars are being siphoned out of our economy. This makes no sense. In 2023, a U.S. Circuit judge ruled that the FDA had acted beyond its authority and was interfering with the practice of medicine. The FDA has since retracted all its erroneous statements about horse paste and public overdosing and removed the misinformation from both their agency website and social media. There are over 100 studies by 1,200 scientists in 30 countries about the benefits of ivermectin, and not just for COVID. It inhibits many other viruses and
thank you for
illnesses, as well as
your
parasites,
testimony.
making an extremely versatile treatment
Thank you.
for Americans.
Chair recognizes Tom Glass, testifying on behalf of Texas Constitutional Enforcement and yourself, and you are for House Bill 3219. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Proceed.
I live in rural Texas. Many of my neighbors during COVID who routinely go and buy veterinary medicines at Tractor Supply went to get ivermectin and used the veterinary stuff. Studied up on the dosage that they required. They're used to doing dosage stuff, and they treated themselves and survived COVID. I personally know several friends who died of COVID who were not able to get access to this life-saving disease. And so there's a bit of emotion on my part in terms of being for this bill. Added to that emotion is the knowledge that I learned during the middle of the summer of 2020, that Big Pharma was cooperating with the bureaucrats whose desire was to run our lives, to make a whole bunch of money, to deny ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and other life-saving devices during COVID so that they could sell their destructive vax to people. I wrote an article about that, and I called it Killing for Profit and Power. If the medical community went along with this sham, resulting in the deaths of untold numbers of Americans, including some of my friends. I don't want to ever be in that shape again. There's a whole bunch went wrong during COVID, and we've got a lot to fix. This is one small step to make sure that the guys who think they can run our lives and know better for us than we do, don't do it, at least with this small, very essential drug and life-saving drug.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Members, questions? Representative Frank.
Yeah, I just have a question, TMA. You might be surprised, I think I'm similar, a little bit closer. I think to me, the ultimate question we need to ask is, should this be over-the-counter should it fall as an over-the-counter medicine with pharmacists? So I want to first ask you a question, though. Do you think, because it happened during COVID, where doctors prescribed ivermectin for their patients and were turned down at the pharmacy, is that something that TMA would oppose? I mean, is that something, shouldn't the doctor have expected the pharmacist to fulfill that prescription?
So physicians
How about
have the
that for a
ability.
loaded question?
No, it's a fair question. I mean, physicians have the ability to prescribe medications. We call it off-label. So imagine for an indication that's not specifically indicated by the FDA, in this case, a pharmaceutical. They have the ability to do that. Once they order the medication, how the pharmacist manage that is not specifically under our control. But I will say, when we do prescribe off-label, there still is the same responsibility and accountability I described for any medication. The importance of the patient relationship, understanding their clinical condition, the indication for the medication for that person and for that specific condition and their disease, so that responsibility and accountability maintains and stays.
Okay, so are you aware of any other situations where pharmacists will have turned down doctors' off-label prescription? Does that happen normally, or is that literally just happened in this one case? Because I think that's one of the things that has flown on people.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to speak for the pharmacist. I just don't know their circumstance and their decision-making around that.
You've been a doctor a long time. Have you ever heard of that on any other?
I'm aware of that circumstance, yes.
Okay, so that's not the only time it's happened?
I'm not aware specifically. In other words, I can't give you another medication, but I have to imagine that because of the responsibility physicians have to prescribe off-label medications when they choose based on their experience, it's quite likely that that has happened.
Okay, because I think that's, so I'm trying, are you aware of well, you know what, I'm going to have to find somebody else because I don't understand really how we go between prescription, you got Tylenol that's off, and how we get in between, because I know this is a very politically charged issue, but frankly, some of the folks created that. But I'm just trying to figure out where this particular drug should be, because I don't see. I did a little research. I don't see that it requires prescriptions in virtually every other country, is what I can tell.
It is an FDA determination, and the medication we're talking about here is, per the FDA, considered a prescription under the requirements I described.
Okay.
It is not over the counter.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Sure. Representative Simmons. I'm sorry. Representative Collier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to make sure I got some of the things. I think you talked about, ma'am, Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Okay. You talked about having access to ivermectin through the pharmacy, and you mentioned insurance. Did your insurance pay for it? Or you said something about it being very expensive?
Yes, in the beginning, but after the FDA decided to call it horse paste, doctors became afraid to prescribe it. So it became very hard to get. So in the beginning, yes, it was covered by insurance, but then doctors weren't prescribing it at all because medical boards would go after them for prescribing it for COVID, even though it was the most effective medicine. So after that, then I didn't try to fill it through doctors because doctors were afraid to prescribe it. And then I had to go elsewhere. And so did all my friends and all my networks.
Okay. So then the medication that, because I just heard the Dr. Silva say that, he said that doctors can prescribe it for off-label use. Was that not the case during your time when you needed it, that it couldn't be prescribed off-label?
After the FDA declared it a horse paste, doctors were simply afraid to prescribe it whether or not they knew it worked. And so they just didn't. They would tell their patients, we're not going to do this.
When you say horse paste, like paste, like pasted on, or what do you mean horse paste?
So Fauci at the FDA, or had the FDA declare it a veterinary medicine only,
Oh.
and encouraged American people, humans, to stop taking it by saying, y'all are not a cow, you're not a horse, don't take this. Which
Well, it was prescribed for
completely-
horses too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Can I answer that question? I think I can give some more insight into your question.
Okay.
Dr. Robin Armstrong, who takes care of nursing homes down in Galveston, was on the front lines when COVID hit his nursing home. While up in New York, it was killing lots and lots of people. But he, by doing his mission, pro bono work in Africa, was aware of hydroxychloroquine, another drug that was done by prescription, that he thought might have a chance at saving his patients. He was desperate because he knew that a lot of them were going to die unless he did something. And so he went and used the off-label capability, just like we're talking, to prescribe hydroxychloroquine for his nursing home patients, and not a single one of them died of COVID. And this was early in the game.
But you said a doctor,
He's a doctor.
but he probably provided oversight.
Sure.
But now we're not doing that. If this bill passes.
No,
it'll
this
be
bill does
fine.
provide oversight. It provides more oversight than we have right now.
I know, but the
Right,
doctor's not
when
even
we go
notified,
to-
excuse me.
Yeah,
The doctor's
that's
not
fine.
even notified if the person is provided or prescribed ivermectin.
Well, the oversight is, it gives you dosing recommendations. The pharmacist gives you dosing recommendations, which,
I know, but
of
there's
course,
nobody that's going to say, I mean, is the pharmacy going to call and the patient in 3 days saying, do you have any of these symptoms to show if there's a allergic reaction? I looked up the drug myself.
I took ivermectin during under prescription, not through a local doctor or a local pharmacy, but I had to do it online to save my wife and my life from COVID. And well, I never had a doctor call me up afterwards. Tom, are you doing okay? That didn't happen. That
I know,
didn't
but
happen.
you have
And
a
it-
doctor,
and
and I'm
it's-
concerned about, here's the thing that I'm concerned about. I'm not,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we're doing it safely.
Yes.
We're here to protect the public health. That's what our
Yes.
job is.
Yes.
And so it says more common side effects are difficulty in moving, muscle pain or stiffness, pain in the joints, swollen or painful or tender lymph glands. And one of the other reasons why I'm concerned is that liability is very high. The standard of care under this bill, I'm sure that they love that. It's going to be willful or gross negligence. That's very hard to prove in terms of legal liability. And if somebody is harmed, there's a fatal harm, it's hard to hold that person accountable under those standards of care. You know, in medical negligence, the standard is reasonable and prudent. This one has raised it to the highest level of gross negligence and willful, like the pharmacist had to purposely, I can't even imagine a situation where they're purposely trying to hurt somebody. People don't wake up and say, today I'm going to hurt people. People wake up with good intentions. That's how I feel in life. You know, people don't set out to do harm. And so the standard of care, when I'm taking the standard of care and the lack of oversight from a medical professional raises alarms for me because I don't want you or your family to get hurt. I want to be able to trace this medication and the symptoms and the follow-up of it, because there's a different reaction in somebody that's a child versus somebody that's older versus a regular person not a regular person, somebody average age of 30 and no priors.
But because of my experience that ordinary people were able to figure this out despite the oppression we went through, and because I know that the medical profession and Big Pharma deliberately killed my friends. They deliberately did so for profit, right? Now, some of the doctors went along with this and didn't do it because they were afraid of what would happen to them. Dr. Robert Armstrong, after he saved the lives of every one of his nursing home patients with hydroxychloroquine, got sanctioned, or at least had to fight with a lawyer, a sanction from the Texas Medical Board, right? So the medical profession as a whole, and the bureaucrats and Big Pharma in particular, are not worthy of our respect anymore. We, the people of Texas, deserve to be able to make decisions about our own lives and protecting our families instead of being forced to take advice from people who are financially or power motivated.
Do
And
you
that's what-
believe,
yes,
hang on.
Yes,
You said you have the right to make a choice
yes, ma'am.
about what you take and don't take?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Do you support the choice to have an abortion?
Well, that would be involved in another person's
Okay,
life.
there you
so,
go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Representative Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just needed a moment to gather my thoughts. I can absolutely understand a certain level of medical hesitancy. As a Black woman, historically, I get it. But I have major concerns about the aspect of healthcare choice when your decisions impact other people. If COVID was something or a virus was something that you just caught and you couldn't spread it and didn't matter, you can do whatever you want. Blow yourself up. But when you have these viruses that are spread person to person, there is a level of responsibility that we should all take. I say this as a human being, but I also say this as the mother of a child who depends on herd immunity because she has sickle cell disease. She's immunocompromised. I was a caregiver for my ailing grandfather for a few years, and it was of the utmost importance to me to make sure that when people came into our home, they were masked, they were washing their hands, and they were taking precautionary steps to care about other people, because that's really what it is. And I'm gonna get to my question, but I think for so long we haven't really seen as a society just how dangerous things like measles and other diseases and viruses are uncontrolled. And there's a luxury in that. And I'm glad that we aren't burying little babies in the graveyards and people are having to have multiple children to replace the ones that they lost because we're just having just widespread disease and viruses and all other sorts of things. But it's hard to sit here and listen to some of this when, yes, again, medical hesitancy can be warranted in some cases, but again, our health care is dependent on each other. So I do have a couple of questions because somebody said that this was recognized by WHO, which is, okay, but what is it recognized for? Like the specifics, what is it recognized for actually treating? And then I'll just get to my next question once I get an answer.
I'd be happy to send you a wealth of articles where it's treated for parasites. It's been used to treat viruses, including COVID-19. I would be happy to send that to you.
And now cancer.
Well, wow, okay. And kind of going along with that, are there any randomized, double-blind clinical trials that show ingesting this particular medicine is useful for treating anything other than parasitic infections?
Again, I'd be happy to send you those articles and that research.
You don't have it with you available right now?
I have it on a drive, so I'd be happy to send that to you.
I would really appreciate
Of course.
that.
And
yeah.
as a mom of a child who was diagnosed with hypogammaglobulinemia when he was an infant, I understand where you're coming from. His health, my children's health, is my responsibility. And at no point would I expect anybody else to set themselves on fire to keep my child warm. At no time.
And you are 100% within your right to believe that. But again, if you can cough on me and give me something that can potentially kill me, I would hope that you would care enough to take preventions, not just to care about your own life, but mine as well. And that's fine. You don't have to care.
take preventions,
I
but there
can't
are
force you to
business
care about other
overviews.
people. I can't. We cannot force you to care about other people, and you're absolutely within your right to feel
To
that
imply
way.
that I don't care about other people, I think is out of line. Thank you.
I'm taking what you said. I'm just.
Representative Simmons, I wanted to answer one of the things you said is, I just don't see how whether I take a medicine that I believe and I think has been proven to save the lives of me and my family has anything to do that threatens you or your family. I just don't.
you, like I said again, you're within your right to believe that. That's fine, but you are using some pretty inflammatory references. And again, and not to, when you say that somebody purposely killed your friends.
Do you have any evidence? Do you have
that's a
any
lot.
evidence? If you deny somebody life-saving medicine so that you can sell another product to them, that you are responsible for that person's death. And that is
So-
what has happened.
Your concept of responsibility is interesting because we're not responsible to take care of each other, but you're also going to say that somebody denying access to and having real concerns about it as a medical professional, I'm sure, is somehow intentionally trying to cause harm to you. I have a little bit of issue with that, but I'm want to ask questions because that's what we're here. And I'm not
They
here.
made their billions.
I'm not here to berate you from the dais. That's you are here to say what you want to say. Can someone just really quick? Yeah. Can you just? So let me get back to it because like I said, I don't want to make y'all feel like y'all are being attacked, but I really do have concerns. Like Rep. Collier said, we have to be very intentional about the bills that we allow to come out of this committee because of the impacts, right? And so I just want to make sure I'm doing my due diligence as a representative. A lot, some of the folks that are supporting this bill says it saves lives from COVID, and y'all have presented, some research to that belief. But others studies are, there's others that are against this that have studies that claim that this is just showing correlation and not necessarily causation. And so just give me a little bit more to help me understand maybe what I'm potentially missing here. And this is for anybody on the panel. And like I said, I would appreciate you following up with our office just so we can have some of this in front of us.
So there are 28 plus randomized controlled studies that show benefit for ivermectin for COVID, and they've been done all over the world by different scientists and researchers. We've had since 1981 to do these studies. This drug has been around for a really long time, so there's an enormous body of evidence, and we'd be happy to share that with you.
Yeah, I guess I'm maybe confused as to why y'all didn't bring that with y'all to right now today so we could kind of review it as we're listening to some of the testimony. But moving on to our doctor from TMA, I just have a question for you as well. Can you tell the committee just maybe some of the poor outcomes that can occur if this drug was provided over the counter versus by prescription only? Because that's what we're talking about. We're not trying to,
Correct.
I guess, limit your access to it completely. We just want to make sure that there is a pharmacist who's responsible for ensuring that the right dosages are given out.
Absolutely. My foundational commitment here is the patient-physician relationship. And within the context of that relationship, the physician understands their clinical circumstance, their history, their other medications, and has the trust of the patient to inform their decision-making in as meaningful and productive as way as possible. Within the context of that respect for the sanctity of that relationship, we simply believe that any medication being prescribed by a physician should follow the Pharmacy Act, go to the pharmacy. If it's filled, it has a prescription and has that relationship established. I mean, that's the basic premise of our position on this bill.
And are there any, maybe, I guess, reports that you could share, investigative reports? Because I've been made aware of one that revealed more than a third of the major trials of efficacy for ivermectin for COVID actually showed that there was just serious errors and possibly signs of fraud. And so if y'all have something to share that could, like I said, help me have a better understanding of what we're actually looking at today, that would be helpful as well.
The Independent Medical Alliance has all the studies listed on their website, and there are hundreds and hundreds of studies and articles on ivermectin. So that's where the repository of all this information is.
Okay, and
Independent Medical Alliance.
we have a great team that can help us find this stuff, but typically I thought when people came to give testimony, they provide information to make it a little easier for us to have access to it in real time, but I will go and do my homework on some of those, so thank you.
Representative Pearson.
Thank you, Chairman. Ms. Miller, you had mentioned once the administration, Fauci, came out and said this was for horses or whatever. That made it more difficult for you to get ivermectin. In fact, impossible. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So I imagine you were probably shocked because humans have been taking ivermectin since the 1980s. Is that right?
That's correct.
So as someone who was in DC during this time and information was coming quickly, I can tell you that there were many physicians who were upset because whether it be ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, pharmacists were not distributing the information based on what you could assume would be political purposes, because to Dr. Silva's point, when a physician prescribes a medication off-label, and it happens daily for a number of different things, you then had pharmacists stepping in, basically telling the physician no. So I understand your frustration, and I'm glad you were able to get whatever you were able to get during that time, because during the administration, we did learn that hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin were helping people. And I'm glad they're doing more studies on that now. So I understand why the bill came, but I do think it's important that people understand this was not just a veterinary medicine and that humans have been taking this since the 1980s. Thank you.
I think it's also important to recognize that if it has a better safety profile than aspirin and Tylenol and ibuprofen, then why can it not become an over-the-counter? Like, what is the argument blocking that if there are far fewer side effects and deaths per year, and these things are objective and empirical and discoverable?
You're absolutely right. I just wanted to point out that it was approved for humans back in the 1980s, so this is not new, and it's not just restricted to veterinarians.
Exactly.
So, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your testimony. Chair calls Stella Emanuel. I show you registered as Stella Emanuel,
Yes, sir.
testifying on behalf of yourself, a physician,